Hello, guys. Thanks for coming. Sorry, just sending out invites. Guys, it's Sunday. We've made it through another week. So, welcome to the end of the week and welcome to the beginning of another week moving forward. Good to see everyone. Bear with me, I'm still sending out invites. Hello, good to see you. Thanks for coming in, guys. Like I said, bear with me, just sending out invites here quickly. Guys, don't forget to send out invites. Let people know we're here and we're gathering Sunday. And I've got some news for you, that's for sure, coming out of Nova Scotia and what's going on over there on the East Coast. So stay tuned, guys, as we get gathered and prepared for the news. All right, there we go. I got my invite sent out. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining tonight. It's good to see you. Just getting things started here, guys. Don't forget to share the stream and tap. Tapping is clapping. Let people know we're here. Get those likes up, guys. Let's boost those numbers. Hello and welcome. Hello. Oh, and they're gone. That's okay. Not a problem. Jojo, thank you so much for the subscription. I really appreciate that. You are fantastic. Thank you so much. I think at this point, you're my number one supporter, and I really, truly appreciate it so much. Hello, everyone. What's on the agenda for this evening? So, I will be talking about what's going on in Nova Scotia and what the supermajority conservatives are doing to consolidate power and change the system up. So, less accountability and less repercussions for things, just like we're seeing in Alberta and other provinces that are run by conservative governments and how they're consolidating power on the provincial level. So, guys, stay tuned for that. It's buckle up. It's the same stuff we're seeing on the West Coast, we're seeing in Ontario um, with the conservative majorities, them just essentially trying to consolidate power and take the power to themselves and take it away from the people. So, yeah, guys, buckle up. Um, we really gotta stay focused on politics and stay focused on what we can do to push back on these conservative governments and how they're consolidating power, right? If you've been paying attention, like look at Alberta, where they're passing bills to essentially waive themselves of accountability and not having to answer for the stuff that they're doing. Well, looks like Nova Scotia is going on the same path now. Yeah, no, you know what? And there's absolutely truth in that, Candy Canuck. You're right. Um, Again, it's just the overwhelming push that we see from conservative leaning politics and politicians, where it's consolidating power. It's almost, I'm equating it, guys, because a lot of times when we look at politics, um, there are a lot of similarities in terms of Canada and the United States, and in a lot of ways, our politics tends to mirror the American politics. And look at the way the Republicans are playing the long game with a lot of things down in the United States. That's what conservatives have been doing on the provincial level up here in Canada, playing the long game, waiting until they get that majority like they have, and now they can consolidate that and give themselves more power without, with less oversight and just pretty much do what they want and have free reign, right? So, Yeah, so it's going to be a deep dive into that, guys. So if you're in Nova Scotia, I would love to have your voice and your opinion on things, especially being that we're going to be talking about Nova Scotia. Let's see here. Hello, not loud.
Can you read my fortune?
I cannot read your fortune.
Can you try?
Where are you located? What
Texas.
what what country? Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Texas, I feel like being a part of the United States right now, you're gonna be seeing some rough times moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, wizard.
Well, that was interesting. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate it. Never know what you're gonna get, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. Tapping is clapping. Don't forget to share the live. Let people know that we're here. We're gathering. Got about 8 minutes till showtime, guys. So we'll get moving here shortly. Got all my notes ready and behind. Put them on the computer this time, so hopefully my computer stays going good. I don't lose my notes. Hello, Moss. Good to see ya. Yeah, Cannon Canuck, absolutely. Sorry. It absolutely is underhanded, and that's what they've been counting on, and that's what they've been banking on, especially now with how a lot of Canadians look at politics, where it's solely, camp based. If you vote conservative, it's conservative across the board, and a lot of people don't know the difference or uh, don't separate provincial and federal politics like they should. So a lot of people look at it with just one lens, and they don't look at the different levels of government, and they don't see the different responsibilities on the different levels of government. They just know that the system's broken, so they just blame mostly federal, right? And focus on federal. Thank you so much, guys, for all the gifts. Thank you so much. You guys are fantastic. Really appreciate it all, guys. I really do. Yeah, just keep it tapping that like button, guys. Again, if you're in Nova Scotia, please feel free to send a request to come up, even if you're not in Nova Scotia. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, then by all means, send a request to come up. And once we do get to the back and forth aspect, I'd love to hear what you got to say. So, guys, you are fantastic. Thank you so much. You really, look at this. You guys got me blushing. That doesn't happen often. Thank you so much for all the love, guys. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic. Look at this hype train going, guys. You guys are crazy. Thank you so much for all the love, guys, for all the gifts. I really, really appreciate it. Hello, how you doing?
Oh, so I'm alive and live.
Pardon me?
Yes. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Really nice. I was just scrolling, and you
Ah, there
just
you go.
yeah. And
Uh,
TikTok,
where, where are
TikTok,
you located? Are you in
will
Canada?
you will be
Sorry,
now. Now,
where?
sorry, man. I do not have a very good internet. I'm not from Canada. Sorry.
No, that's okay. If you want to stick around and listen, by all means, stick around and listen. Gonna get going here in about 4 minutes on some news in Canada.
Man, I'm really sorry. I'm hearing you very, very, very bad because I'm in a country that we don't have internet. It's very, very bad for us.
Okay, not a problem. You know what? I'm just going to get you to
Let's
step down, and by all means, stick around and listen, and be a part of the conversation
no,
in the chat if you'd like.
no. By the way, I'm. You are in Canada, right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Europe, man.
Oh, okay. You're over in Europe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm from Bulgaria. Here in Bulgaria, we don't have internet, man. I'm just.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't have internet here.
Okay. Well, no, like, and what, so if you're over in Europe, can I ask quickly, what are you, what's Europe's kind of thinking on Donald Trump and what's going on with the United States right now?
So it's a politic think about. Yeah, that's why. But because I'm searching for politic things, so that's why TikToks.
Okay.
No, no. Um, I don't have thing about Trump. I just want to care about my own country, so I don't have any.
No, that's fair. I was just curious to see if you had any thoughts on that.
No, it's just by the way, in my
Mm,
country, nobody thinks about. Um, Nobody's thinking actually about Trump because we are that poor. We don't have time for this. We don't have the time to think worldwide.
mhm,
Yeah. Okay, you people, you from I don't know certain countries where all the things are going nice. You have different things than us. I mean, you have a good life. You have good salary. You have a I don't know all the things that we are dreaming for.
mhm.
You have the time to
Well,
think about Trump and what they are doing. Trump, we are thinking about food, how we can battle our corruption.
mhm.
We have different things.
No, absolutely. And I mean, in a lot of ways, Western society really does, in terms of global scale, have it a lot easier, it, and a lot more comfortable, for lack of better words, than
Yep.
a
Yep.
lot of the rest of the globe, right? So,
Yep.
no,
So,
absolutely.
guys, just things that you have to. I don't know. I don't want to be rude, but I think that you have to understand that you are lucky somehow. For some
Yeah.
point of view, just don't think that your life in your center countries, I mean, um, good countries,
Hmm.
good countries. There's a lot of good countries. I mean, you said you are from Canada, right?
Yep. We're in Canada. Yep.
So, Canada is a good country. Uh, we are dreaming to have a country like Canada. I don't want to be in Canada. I mean, I don't want to make the transition in
Yep.
your country. Then make it, but I want a
But
country like Canada.
yeah, you're saying in terms of quality of life and the different benefits that we have really taken for granted here in Canada for the
You know
most part.
what I want to say. It's like be concentrate to another things because your country is okay. For the moment, is okay. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. You know better, but trust me. In Bulgaria, Romania, Malta, Georgia. Okay, Malta is better, but in those countries, Georgia, Romania, and Bulgaria, we have different things. We are concentrating. Okay, we are in Europe, We are
Yep.
part of European Union, but it's bad.
Yep. No,
Trust me. Can
absolutely.
mm,
So if you would like, I apologize. It's 8 o'clock for me, so I gotta start. I've got to start my show. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put you back down to just in the chat. And if you want to stick around and listen and be a part of the conversation and chat, by all means, stick
yeah,
around.
sure,
Okay.
sure. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming up and say hi. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
There we go, guys. All right, so we're at 8 o'clock. Welcome to the Progressive Moose News, guys. Don't forget to tap that like button. Tapping is clapping, guys. Share the live. Let everyone know that we're here. And we've gotten started. Get my headset on properly here. All right, so tonight, guys, we are going to talk about what's going on in Nova Scotia. So, if you've been paying attention across the country, Nova Scotia just had an election back in November, I believe it was. They already had a conservative majority, but they ended up winning more seats, on the provincial level, giving them what some are calling a super majority compared to what they already had. So, the Nova Scotia government has taken a giant step backwards in accountability and transparency with the introduction this week of the contentious omnibus bill. Political observers and access to information experts say. Among other things, the bill will make it possible for Premier Tim Houston's progressive conservatives to fire the province's Auditor General without cause, effectively eliminating the independence of a key officer of the legislature, said David Johnson, a professor of political science at Cape Breton University. It is an example of enormous and unwarranted executive overreach, he says in an interview. There's a desire from the Premier to control the message. It's said that the Premier is seeking to have this type of control to turn an independent officer into an employee of the Premier's office. It smacks of a control mania. Houston, who is a chartered professional accountant, has argued that Nova Scotia is merely falling in line with other provinces. Manitoba and Alberta have similar legislation, which requires two-thirds of the legislature to approve such a firing. Houston's Tories control more than two-thirds of the seats in the legislature after the party won 43 of 55 ridings in the November 26th election. On Thursday, Nova Scotia Auditor General Kim Adar urged the government to withdraw the amendment legislation, which would also give the government the power to withhold her public reports for reason of public interest. The ability to remove the Auditor General without cause, combined with the ability to control our public reporting, impacts the independence, integrity, and objectivity of the office, Adar told a news conference. These changes could mean any report the government doesn't like wouldn't be made public. The Auditor General's office has played a key role in keeping the government and all members of the legislature accountable for their actions. Back in February 2010, Auditor General Jacques Lapointe released a bombshell report that exposed excessive and inappropriate spending of constituency funds. He found some members had used public money to pay for cameras, computers, extensive office renovations, custom made furniture, a model boat, and an espresso maker, among other things. Four Nova Scotia politicians were charged in February of 2011 after Lapointe asked the RCMP to investigate. All four later pleaded guilty to various charges, and legislature spending and disclosure rules were overhauled. So, guys, that's saying back in 2011, there were issues with corruption and spending and how they were being held accountable. So, there were politicians that actually got held accountable for that way back then. Um, And it's a really good example as to why we need auditor generals and why we need them to be independent from any party or premier's office, so that way they're non-biased and do their jobs in terms of holding governments accountable, regardless of what side of the aisle decides to partake in the corruption or the misdoings or inappropriate actions, right? Like, this is what they're there for. Um, so definitely, trying to be able to just fire them just for no cause really, is definitely a way of just consolidating power. And like they said, it gets rid of accountability, because if the government just wants to say, hey, you know what, we're just not going to make something public, they can do that now without the auditor general if they decide to go that route. Um, yeah, so
You're speaking to a really good point, which is that one of the strengths of Canadian political or government system is that we have a lot of impartial, non-elected officials. And I know some people think, oh, unelected, unaccountable, whatever, but our judges aren't partisan. They don't decisions aren't split down party lines. They're split in accordance with what the law says,
yeah,
common law, and the precedent. And you probably know how judges work or whatever.
yeah,
Um, but and that's why we can have a much more consistent kind of law as opposed to in the U.S., for example, where they'll just go back and forth with certain decisions, or it's whoever is in power in that moment. So you are right that it sounds like the firing as auditor general is it doesn't look good at the very best.
yeah. No, absolutely. And there's a lot more to it too. So, hang on your butt, because there's definitely more coming. So, Adar is defending the role of the legislature to be in control of the public purse. Johnson said, if they need extraordinary spending initiatives, then they should be bringing that to the legislature for approval, not dealing with financial management through executive fiat. On another front, the Houston government intends to use its majority to change the province's Freedom of Information law to make it possible for the heads of public bodies to dismiss information requests for being frivolous, excessively broad, or interfering with operations. Sharon Polsky, president of the Privacy and Access Council of Canada, said the Tory government's move reflects a broader trend in the country where public bodies receiving access requests are being given more opportunities to ignore them. It mirrors what we've been seeing in other jurisdictions, Polsky said in an interview from Calgary. It gives the power to the public body to say, no, we decided we don't want to respond to your access request because we have decided your request is factitious. It gives them carte blanche. So yeah, it's essentially saying, guys, with this move, it would be if they were to do some overreach or excessive spending, and when somebody goes to look into the matter, the government would have the power to just say, we just don't feel like disclosing the information to you, so no, we're not going to. Um, yeah, so she goes on furthermore to say that Nova Scotia is copying the more restrictive rules in Alberta. This is a monkey see, monkey do legislative landscape, she says. Whether it's diminishing the public's access to information or diminishing the right to privacy. Once one jurisdiction manages to get it passed into law, other jurisdictions point and say, you see, they can do it, so why can't we? Which goes to your point earlier, Damien, about, the judges and how president gets set. And now, because Alberta's kind of set that precedent, you're going to start to see other conservative governments do it across country.
Yeah, you could see it though. Like usually, each province applies its own like
Yeah,
case law and stuff. But it is true that provinces often borrow from each other in terms of we kind of end up we kind of have the freedom to kind of experiment province to province in a lot of ways, like with healthcare. but then we also get harmonized over time as we find the best ways and the most effective ways to do things. So it's true though. Now that this has been precedent has been set in Alberta, it's going to probably go to other provinces as well.
Yep, absolutely. And we've seen it kind of Alberta being the biggest one. Ontario, we've kind of see the same push, not as drastic, but there's still been that push that way. And same with, I believe it's Saskatchewan with the Sask Party. They've really kind of gone that same route as well. Um, so yeah, guys, just something to keep in note, right? Because we might not see it on the federal level, but you have to watch the provinces because overall across provinces it makes a difference when they all start doing the same kind of clawing at power and breaking away different checks and balances that were put there for a reason. Happy, how
Hey,
you
buddy,
doing?
how are you?
I'm good.
You know what? You just triggered a thought in my head, and to me, I think these provinces like are too used to controlling so much growing portions of our economy that they're becoming accustomed to holding those portions hostage, right? And then
Mhm.
extorting
Oh,
partisan benefits instead of like trying to arrange for everyone's benefit. And I think that it's because they have such huge swaths of land um, committed to it. Like, what happens if we start breaking the provinces up into fractions of what they are and assigning premiers to that? So instead of what we have, we just double it, and all of a sudden, there's that there's more possibility of direct representation of
Yep.
individuals, and less like need for accountability on such a big portion of land.
that would also
Yep.
be a great opportunity to maybe do some land back. We talk to the indigenous and see if they want to get any of that land back.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I
It's a
could
good
see that.
opportunity to do that, right? Like, and to present the First Nations with more independence, like present them with, but like
Yeah, yeah, like
bad terminology, right? Like, but
autonomy from our government system. They could have their own
Yeah.
governance, maybe in their
yeah,
own
self-governance,
regulations. Yes,
absolutely.
yeah, some more self governance. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
didn't want it to feel like I was being benevolent about it. And they're the benefactor of, like some kind
No.
of.
The first thing that comes to mind with what you're saying is almost like unorganized township, which we have up here in the north, where it's just people back in the bush, or in the forest, I should say, and it's unorganized. So you're governing yourself out there.
Oh
Also,
yeah, we have a lot of
like
that in the United States too. Go ahead,
it's like
Henry.
one of those like unincorporated municipality kind of deals.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
I just think that
Yeah.
we're also spending way too much money, like trying to develop the same big cities, right? Like all of our chips are in one, all of our eggs are in one basket, like, and
Hmm.
and we have major cities in most of our provinces that represent, well over half of our economy, and we should be kind of looking towards, I don't know, perhaps like building new cities. And that's my big thing is like, and now we're talking about a hyperloop or whatever, a speed rail that goes across Canada, which is amazing. Like if we were to think outside the box, like I'm just trying to spitball here and why we're
Yeah.
we're continually doing the same thing over and over again.
Are
Well,
you
and this is, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just mention Happy. So you're pretty excited about that rail that's going on between Quebec. Was it Quebec
Ontario.
and Ontario? Would you want them to extend that across the country, perhaps?
I think that should be the goal for sure.
The only thing, the biggest thing I want to point out on that, and like I think if they can make it feasible, it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
But as it stands, like, so Trudeau announced it, but he didn't announce a rail. He announced 2.3 billion dollars for them to do planning for the next 6 years.
Oh, it's a planning. Okay, so there's planning right now.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that's something where to me it's you got to watch kind of. because 6 years is a long time from now, and there's nothing to stop it from just, somebody else taking over, just kind of like, yeah, we're just going to move that to the side.
Well, personally, I think it's worth taking a lot of time to study it. And I mean, feasibility is one thing, but it's also things like how fast can we make it go? And to a degree, like after a certain speed, you have to make the rail separate from everything, and you have to
Yeah,
have turns that are like kilometers long because if you're going that fast, you can't go around a sharp turn.
yeah,
And so
There's a
if you're going to invest
pretty
in that, if you're going to invest in those dedicated lines, it's
so
kind of
this
worth thinking about like, do we want to spend like a little bit of money to get a mediocre system or a lot of money for a great system that'll be super fast as opposed to kind of mediocre fast?
yeah.
Because we have rails right now that go across Canada, they're way too slow. So if we're going to do it, maybe
well, I mean,
I would be tempted to say let's do it big.
well, I think
Let's do it
those
super.
rails could be dedicated to like transporting freight instead, right? Like big heavy things that
Yeah,
Well, you could do
yeah.
both. There's no reason to even
that
do one or
we're
the other,
already
right?
used to delivering that way, and that would open up more space. And I don't think that we should ignore the fact that the CN Rail is a heritage
No, absolutely,
part of our it's a part of our history, right? And I think
Hmm.
absolutely.
having that kind of supported through federal funding and subsidies is important.
Yep.
But I also think evolution is really key.
Yeah,
And when you brought this to my attention, I had to look it up. And if you go to the pm.gc.ca, one sec,
mm,
excuse me, uh, sorry. There's a complete breakdown of how that money is to be allocated. Fuck, uh, acid reflux there. Sorry. And so the um, the money being allocated and the consulting that you're talking about actually has um, been not micromanaged, but like project managed.
broken down. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's still pretty vague. Um, Yeah, they mentioned a couple of companies,
Do they? That's
Alto,
probably later on in the
Cadence,
process, right?
in particular.
yeah.
I actually emailed
But
Justin
yeah, and
Trudeau
that's and
about the
that's
rail companies and
Setting
was
up the
like,
terms of the
you know,
next phase of the project and its co-development. Yeah,
yeah.
3.9
And
billion.
that kind of leads me into so that just kind of leads me into my next little section here. So bear with me for a minute or two, and then we can jump back into it, guys. So a part of what's going on in Nova Scotia. So Tim Houston, their premier, was headed to Washington, but decided to make a unscheduled stop over in Ontario to meet up with good old Dougie Ford and help him on the campaign trail, essentially. Um, the two of them bolstering that they will be working together to create a bill that would knock down interprovincial trade, making it easier for goods and such to be traded between our provinces, and kind of make up and bring trade more home, so to speak. Not to sound like good old Pierre Poilievre, but bolster trade within our own borders, essentially, which I think is a great thing. I think there's a lot that can be done, um, when it comes to making up the difference or being able to just trade more so within our own Canadian borders. I think is a great thing, and I think we need to start looking at that in a lot of ways for our resources, whether it's lumber, whether it's the forestry, mining. I'm in Northern Ontario, so like we have so many resources that we ship all over the place from up here. Um, and I think we just need to be able to have it flow more freely through Canada. So anyone that wants to do that, I'm on par with. But you have to watch how you do it because we're talking about Doug Ford and we're talking about Tim Houston, which both talk about the business interests, which I can understand for the economy. But when they do this, they're giving grants or subsidies to corporations instead of themselves and the people of the province. So take note of that as well. All right, partner, look at me go. Um, yeah, so you always got to kind of read the fine print, and when they say corporate or corporations, they're just looking to enrich more corporate cronies. Happy and Damien, you got anything on that?
I think like it's important to focus on who controls the regulations on
Mhm.
interprovincial trade. And I don't think that Pierre Polyev implying that he's going to have any kind of real impact besides subsidies and grants to corporations. I don't. Hey, congratulations. Right? Like, so I think Pierre Polyev is mainly going to just parrot like talking points without any substance and without really being able to do anything. Whether or not he creates programs to incentivize it, I'm struggling to figure out what he's going to do to encourage province to province business, where the provinces haven't already explored that or been able to do that, or put up their own roadblocks.
Yeah. No,
I
absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Damien.
That Pierre man, I think he's full of crap. I don't think he's got any plan other than like sell our stuff to the U.S. and private interests like they always do when the conservatives are in charge. I don't think
Mhm.
he. That's why he keeps slogans going. So no one, and why he keeps saying common sense this, because common sense means don't think about it, don't think deeply about it, just get mad like I am. And he takes like the term opposition like extremely literally. He doesn't realize that he still represents constituents in the best interest of his constituents and all Canadians, even if he is the opposition. And I feel I'm like the kind of opposition that I'm not conservative, and I wouldn't want to be, but I'm the kind of opposition that isn't like that. That's good. That kind of challenges viewpoints every so often and tries to start conversations. But he just like
Yeah.
opposes whatever the liberals do, and it's like he's trying to do his lapdog thing for the U.S. interests that want to take over our country, which is also being influenced by
Mhm.
Russia. So now I sound crazy. So, but I mean, the trail's
No, you
there.
don't sound
Trail's
crazy.
there.
There's been stuff that has come out in terms of influencers online, and was it like
Yeah,
the
right.
pretty much bot armies that they've been using for bolstering like their support online, so to speak. Um, so there's been different
Yeah, yeah,
avenues that they're using that, you know, really they're paying to look better than what they are in the public eye.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
our good old capitalist system is working just the way it should for them at this point.
Yep. And also, like, we got to keep in mind that Canadians use the internet a lot more than a lot of folks in the world because we have a really big country and it's when we stay connected. And we're also kind of well meaning, nice people or polite people. So it's kind of like whoever is trying to influence our elections is taking it, they know us in some ways really well. And they know that we'll just assume these people who say, oh, my Second Amendment rights were being violated at the trucker convoy. We're going to be like, oh, that poor Canadian doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks he's American when he probably was American, and we just were like too silly to think that maybe it was the trucker convoy, for example, was like an American thing. It's all this American stuff. So
It's definitely
A little
American
bit,
influence.
and then I don't want to look like I'm in a fucking bunk. Please, come on. I
Whoa.
plugged you in, gave you clothes to change.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
As good as you look. How you doing?
Oh, want to add to the conversation?
Oh my god, I was just having a fight with my lady friend, and I was like, "Hey, could you take the other section so I don't look like a bum?" She's like, "No, can you just go next to me?" I'm like, "All right." Anyways, I'm from Montreal, Canada, and I'm fucking
Yep.
ready to chit chat about whatever.
There you go. So we've been talking about kind of what the conservatives have been doing in Nova Scotia and in other provinces, and just to push to really just enrich their cronies more than anything else, in terms of all the different legislation and policy they want to do
Mhm.
interprovincially and such right now.
All right. Well, like here's the here's the worst part, and then I'll tell you the best part. But just do not discredit me. Um, I'm very conservative, like extremely conservative, right? Like I could go back like 8 generations of my indigenous lineage. I don't know my Irish
Mhm.
side, but I am. I don't know. Like I think I spit in a vial, and it told me that I was 40% Irish and like 20% Scottish, and all that kind of stuff. But like, but the funny thing is, like, can we all agree that there's been a few complaints?
A few complaints.
Well,
Yeah.
there's definitely, I mean, regardless of what side of the aisle you vote for, there's definitely, I mean, there's things that need to be taken care of, and there's things that governments need to start actually doing their jobs on. I will agree with that.
But like,
What does extremely? Well, wait. What does extremely conservative mean? What did you
no,
mean
I
by
was
that?
actually curious about what
but
that means for
let's be
you.
honest. I am very conservative in my
What does that
values.
mean?
I'm very conservative in my values, but I would challenge
What are
any of
conservative
you.
values?
What does that mean?
Why would you cut me off? I'm talking.
Because I
Well,
don't know
no,
what
because
you're
I had
talking
asked you a
about.
question and you cut me off to talk. I was like
You
mid
asked
sentence.
me a question while I was talking, and I cut you off to talk.
So,
No.
okay,
The discourse
so
between
guys,
you and Moose had concluded,
Sorry,
and
I am
I asked
interrupting.
a question because it was now somebody else's
Can I
turn to
finish?
talk,
Can I finish?
and then you jumped
so
in again.
Kevin,
Oh,
so
here's
Kevin,
what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. I do.
Here's what you're
I'm very
saying. Is this
conservative,
what
but I
conservative
am
values look
NDP.
like?
But I am NDP. I'm NDP. Okay. I'm very
That
much.
doesn't make sense.
I'm very much. I've. Have you visited any of the Toronto places where Jack Layton? We have to remember that the liberal conservative got voted in because fucking what's his name? What's that fucking weirdo's name? The conservative Harper. He got voted out because we were so sick of his shit.
well, he got voted
That's
out because he
the
lost
reductive way.
confidence.
Yeah,
Right?
sorry.
And
Go ahead,
before
Moose.
that, we had the liberal MP who was what?
Which liberal MP?
The Are you serious?
You talking about Ontario?
This is not my
Are you
page.
talking? Are
This
you
is
talking
definitely
about
not my page.
Kathleen
My
Wynne?
dick is too straight for you cunts. Like this is
Whoa,
stupid, man.
whoa, whoa.
This is
What?
All right. And that
Guys,
is enough of that.
So again, that's
what
Goodbye.
was that?
that's another display of conservative values. That's another
Wow.
display of the conservative base. That's exactly who these people are. They want you to think that there's somebody else, and they want you to think that they're victims. And he's going to go and say that we didn't let him speak. And
Oh yeah.
that's exactly what it was. Is literally a video testimonial of conservatism in Canada.
Is he one of those guys that gets paid to like go from the left wing to kind of the middle, and then they pick fights, and
More
they're
than
like, oh, I'm being
likely, yeah.
attacked, and that's how they build up their base and go right, and they end up and they get paid like $5,000 a month to do it. Like
In some
that's how they do it, right?
evangelism, that's what it is. In some
And
Mm.
evangelism.
and definitely points out the point where like all of us were willing to have a conversation, but he wanted to have his platform to say what he had to say, and then that was it. So, um, and guys, this is very, very common. Everyone watching right now, this is very common, whether it's online, whether it's in person. This is what it is. It's a troll mentality where that's you saw it right there, prime example. Uh,
Yeah. And you see it all the
Thanks
time.
for the rose.
Hey, it's Yahtzee Hunter again. They're a big fan, big fan.
there you go.
I don't know what they have to say or who they are or who they think they are, but they can come and address me directly, or they can sit in the comments and chirp.
Oh, Johnny's in chat.
I'm not sure.
What up,
There
Johnny?
you go, guys.
John is another
Yeah.
example
So
of to be in politics. Maybe taking a spot, getting yourself a lifelong pension.
Hey, Jane in chat. That's why I call the people
what?
chat. They're like bots because they follow
We saw
instructions
Happy
from their
be
leader.
ignorant and rude. Loves to talk opposing sides.
Yahtzee, like, what are you doing? You were over in the Beaver politics earlier, and now you're here. I'm sorry. Like, we don't want to pay attention to you, but keep boosting the lives because the
I
more
think that's
you
actually spotted
comment, the
turtle.
more it boosts us. So have at it.
I
I'm
think it's
down
spotted
for it.
turtle. I'm not sure.
Yeah, guys. Sorry, we kind of got a little off track there, but that's absolutely okay. Um, yeah.
We're
So you
talking
see a lot
about,
of.
yeah.
No, you're good. So when you look at how the conservatives are doing things too, guys, like even Tim Houston. So he's saying about knocking down interprovincial trade only with other provinces that put in the same type of policies that they do when it comes to interprovincial trade, right? So it's the same mentality as you see down in the United States where it's, red versus blue sort of thing and do what we do or we just won't have anything to do with you
Is
from
that like
from the
a,
right.
okay, I'm not saying that we don't need to adjust our interprovincial trade rules, but is it fallacious to assume that we would have the same trade rules on each side, so to speak? Because, like, isn't comparative advantage one reason that you have certain
Well, and this is and
interprovincial
this is the whole
rules?
thing, right? Because they're complaining about how there's different legislative or policies in terms of quality or in terms of how you make certain things depending on province, right? So essentially, what it's doing when the conservatives talk about it, like Tim Houston does, and Doug Ford talking about getting rid of the red tape, is essentially saying like we're just going to open it up for companies to do whatever the hell they want to be able to get their product across the country to other provinces. That's what they're saying, but they make it sound like there's a bunch of crap in the way, but no, it's just safety or, like other regulations that different provinces put in place for the people.
You
You
know,
see, there's
we had a problem in BC where there was trucks that would hit overpasses and they would cause millions of dollars in damage. And we have the Insurance Corporation of BC in BC, so they basically pay for it. So everyone in the province ends up paying for these truckers. And here's the thing, right? You'd think it'd be easy to police, and in a way it was. We, like the company, we'd shut down a company or they wouldn't be allowed to operate. But then they would just like change their province to Alberta, and because of interprovincial rules, they would be another entity, so they weren't technically banned. And
hmm
then they would, yeah. And I'm not exactly sure why. A lot of these, there's a lot of reasons about why these drivers are doing it. But at the end of the day, the companies are not taking responsibility. It's costing us millions of dollars. So this might be. I'm wondering how this might fit into this whole interprovincial trade idea. Uh, I don't really know where to go with this, to be honest. I just want to mention that as a thing that's happening in BC.
Yeah, so that's like the conversation moving forward. I think is going to be a bit of a like in terms of the provinces figuring out, how they want to do things with each other, especially when it comes to party lines. I think is going to be a crap show for lack of better words. But I think overall we should be okay if we can figure out a proper way to do this. And yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know the ins and outs of it fully, so I don't want to sit here and speculate as to how it's going to turn out. But I think there's enough of a push across Canada on the provincial level, and even on in business interests. As much as I hate to say that, to do more Canadian based and more Canadian kind of diversifying across from east to west. So
I think
um,
as a population, as a voting base, we should be grouping together and really putting pressure on. To say that the politicians have a responsibility to read our minds is preposterous. And then when we don't show up to vote, we're pretty much putting the power into the hands of the people who do show up to vote. And typically that ends up being people who have a controlling interest in the direction of policy
yeah.
already. So it just keeps on repeating itself in cycles. But I think like when we have organized masses, we have control and we can dictate the policies that these political parties put forward. ensuring protections of worker rights and human rights across the board, so to speak. So I think it's on us as a population to really hold their feet to the fire, put pressure on them to adopt certain policies that benefit everyone,
Mhm.
and make those policies a priority of all the platforms. And then break up the provinces into smaller states so that we have two or three premiers instead per province instead of just one, and then spreading out the population through different construction initiatives and
Mhm.
incentives and stuff like that, building the
No,
population.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I did have a point to go with that, and I completely lost it, to be honest. I
Well,
hate
for
when that happens. Yeah.
quickly, I'll just say for someone in chat, someone talking about it being hyper oppressive here. You know what? I post plenty of controversial opinions on my page. I'm an American anti-nationalist, so I'm talking about restricting immigration and questioning about visas in the U.S. and all this stuff, and it's a very touchy issue. And I'm allowed to say that, and I'm allowed to criticize the current government, and they let and like I've never faced any oppression of that kind. So if there is I mean, I'm not saying there's no oppression in Canada, but I'm not sure like what oppression you're talking about.
There's definitely so see, and this is where like there's definitely nobody's lost freedoms over, Trudeau's time in office or the Liberals' time in office. If anything, we still face the same things in terms of um, hate towards different skin color, and they still are fighting for, in some cases, their lives from law enforcement and just the systemic issues. So there's still that aspect. Um, but
I
yeah, in
realize,
terms of
yeah,
what
yeah.
they're talking about, no, like we're not overall oppressed by our government. And prime example is if we really were, nobody would be flying fuck Trudeau flags because
Sure.
we'd be oppressed by our government.
Like in China, you can't.
Talk about censorship and stuff like that, and oppression and yada yada yada. I'm just reading now that Ontario is pausing 15 government advertising campaigns deemed to be partisan
Oh,
since the leadership debate. So that just happened. They just released this article yesterday. Ontario, and they're all Doug Ford, right? Like it's all Doug Ford spending.
Oh, so they're pausing Doug Ford's ads? Is that what
Yeah.
you're?
Yeah, so like on
Uh,
like Ontario, like Ontario commercials, like how they've always been like a place to grow, or Ontario, there's no place, like that shit.
yeah.
So I think in there, they're saying that Doug Ford is using that money to be partisan, and conservative advertising. And
Okay.
like he made a big deal about ripping up that. Yeah, so they suspended 15 different advertising campaigns.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's two guys. Like Doug Ford has been putting out advertisements and whatnot on American media too. He's been spending money
Ford
on
has refused.
American media outlets because he's
Yeah,
trying to send out the message to Americans about,
and he
like,
admitted it.
yep.
He admitted it. He's like, and for the life of me, I'm like, what the fuck is his? Sure. Sorry. But here, Ford has refused to lay out how much money taxpayers have spent on the commercials, only offering that the budget is in the tens of millions. And at a recent campaign event, saying the information could be compelled using freedom of information laws. Tens of millions of dollars,
you guys should get on that before the records mysteriously disappear.
right? And then that whole Elon Musk thing. He's like, "Come on back, Elon Musk." How is he paying
What?
that guy to come? Yeah, you didn't
Yeah,
know
he
that.
he ripped
The
up that
deal's back
deal
on.
and he
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
he had a second deal already in his pocket. So once he ripped that first one up, he pulled the second one out, signed it, and it's still there.
There we
It's like a
go.
freaking cartoon. It's
Yeah.
like Homer
Well, look,
Simpson stuff. Like, oh,
so
just kidding. I,
yeah, well, when you watch the debate, so I watched both the leadership debates, the Northern Ontario and the normal one. And the normal one, he flat out says on stage, I was going to do the green belt, I got caught, I
Yeah.
apologized, I still did it. So he full on just like, I apologize, but I'm still doing it right
Did he
there. And
still do it?
that's what I've been telling people. Just because he apologized, he's still moving forward with that shit. So he's still enriching his corporate buddies in real estate.
I've noticed this thing that I noticed it during Donald Trump's campaign. I hate to talk about him, but during his last campaign, I noticed he did a lot of things that were embarrassing, and the left wing was always like talking about all this stuff, and it was to the point of like, oh look, he's soiling himself, or look at this stuff and all whatever, right? But I think they didn't realize they were playing into exactly the way that he works, because I think the way that these people work, in the same way that Pierre Poilievre works, is they attract people because for like Donald Trump basically makes other people feel better about themselves because he's such a piece of crap, and he's okay being that. He doesn't care if people judge him, right? So Pierre Poilievre is kind of like he's like a dweeb, right? He's sort of like a loser, but he makes other people who follow him feel better about themselves because at least they're not as bad as he is.
Oh, and then calling an election at this, like, to me, calling an election here is like an ethical violation almost. Like it's like capitalizing on you know I don't know what the fart like he's doing, but like it should be illegal to call an election right now. It's like extorting us, right? Like, oh, I'll do my
Oh
job
yeah,
only if you give me a majority mandate. Can I do my
Yeah.
job? You already have a majority mandate. Just fucking do your
Yeah,
job.
he's still running on the same mandate that he won the last election on, so he doesn't need a new one. He still has
Yeah.
another 2 years for his
Right?
current one. So and it's the same thing. Like I said the same thing about Justin Trudeau when he dissolved, trying to get a stronger government, and I'm like, no, it's just a waste of taxpayer fucking money.
In 2021, sorry?
Yeah,
Yeah. I looked at that as like a referendum on policy too, though, like, because, the conservatives had a very different approach to how they were going to do, um, COVID policy and protocols, and the rollout there, right? And then, Justin Trudeau had his own and Jagmeet Singh had his own, but they aligned a little closer together. I think it was more of like an opportunity for the public to speak out and vote for the direction they wanted to take during that period,
okay. Yeah, so
personally. But I'm
yeah, no,
biased.
you view it a bit different than I do. So I get, but you're right on the information there. That is essentially why that election, he did the way he did. So I agree with you in that sense. I still just think to me it was just a waste of money, especially given he really didn't get anything out of it other than the same position he was already in.
Yeah.
Um,
But he also had
but
permission, like
no, absolutely.
it's kind of like when electoral reform, everybody's like, hey, he said he was going to bring in electoral reform, but nobody talks about when he brought it to the table and nobody could agree
And
on
nobody, yeah,
like. So what are you gonna do? You want him to force it through the way that he wants it, as opposed to like the other 60%, 65% of Canadians. Like it's
yep.
like, well, I don't know. I'll just
No,
do it
I
my way.
agree, absolutely.
But yeah. Anyways, like this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about
um,
Doug Ford and his ineptitude. There's so
yeah,
much to
no,
talk about, man. Like with Doug Ford, he left everybody hanging too, and then points the finger at the federal government. Like underspent on healthcare. $3 billion later, still underspending and underperforming in healthcare. How many
yeah.
billions of dollars do you need to run a successful healthcare system? I tell you, in Ontario, you could probably do it with less than what they're spending,
Oh,
and still
absolutely.
be happy
are they?
and still meet their
How's
goals.
the privatization of the Ontario healthcare system going?
Well, and that was a
Right?
point that I
Yeah.
was going to make in terms of how much they're putting out to private practices to make up the difference in different surgeries or, routine procedures. They're actually pretty much paying private to make up that difference, almost double what they would pay in the public sector of healthcare, right? So they're just shoveling so much money to private, and that's where all the money's going is into the private sector, not the public sector.
Well, it's good to know that the difference between private and public in Canada is about the same as it is between Canada's public and the U.S. You know, paying twice as much for the same care. Like that's a lot of wasted money. That's like
Hmm.
50% less efficient, less healthcare for your money.
Hmm.
And they
And
get
that's
super sneaky.
taxpayer money going to that private. So,
Yep, making some guy
And they
rich.
did it super sneaky, right? Like they got insurance companies to be complicit and just say, okay, we're going to divert this money and we're not going to fight it. You know, we're going to let them
mhm,
use the healthcare to pay for the private sector, and we'll just take that money. And they start with the senior citizens, and they start with the people who aren't going to question it, the people who have, you know, universal coverage or whatever,
mhm,
supplemental coverage, and nobody's going to even bat an eyelash. Okay, well, I'll go from here to the next place and I'll get the treatment I need, but I don't have to pay anything. And then
mhm,
all of a sudden it's like now we're paying for the private money, right? Like we're paying into an insurance policy because these are the only places that are offering these services, and they're no longer funded by the provincial government
mhm.
anymore. And now we have private healthcare. Um,
And I bring it up all the time when I'm talking about Ford because, you know, Ford says he's going to fix things moving forward. How many years has he already had to fix things and he still hasn't? And furthermore, to your point, especially when it comes to healthcare, um, during the pandemic, we had uh, Canadian the yeah, Canadian Army showed up to help in long-term care facilities because it was a crisis. They did not have the staff to take care of people during the pandemic, right? So Canadian Armed Forces stepped in and helped. And Doug Ford made a pledge that he was going to tear down the private long term care because of how badly things went. And it showed how bad for profit care was. So he said he was going to dismantle it, and he never did, right? So, like, it's the age old, again, he waves a trick in front of your face and is blatant about it, but nobody seems to fucking latch on that this is what he's doing.
and the one of the ways, like I'm just kind of like briefly looking into how they're doing this, is they create a different fund that is supported by the government, and that fund will what is that called? Sundown
Sundown Fund.
eventually just won't exist anymore. It won't be funded by the province, and that fund is what is paying the private entities to provide the
Mhm.
supplemental health care that is not accessible because of the strain on our current system because of underfunding in the public sector. You know, so they'll just pull the funding for that, and we're going to be like, well, how do we do it? And the company's going to say, well, you know, it's $85 a month, and we'll cover you. Okay, now it's 110. Now it's 120. Now, do you have any comorbidities? You know, how
Yep.
old are you? Do you exercise frequently? Have you ever had a concussion? You know, is your jaw been broken? You know, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're not eligible for coverage, or you're litigating coverage.
Yep. No, exactly. And a big issue with private healthcare that a lot of people don't realize too, especially I'll use the United States as an example. A lot of cases with private healthcare, if you go somewhere other than your normal place for your private healthcare, it can be a hassle because if you go to the ER, they have to then get your files and get your history from that private clinic.
Hmm.
So they have to wait for your history to be able to do a
And they
bunch
have
of
to pay
different
for it.
things. Exactly, right? So that's where like a big upside to the public sector is it's right there. All they have to do is put in your
Yep.
information and it just pops up and they can help you and treat you in the moment you need it.
We got an angry liberal in chat.
Yeah, he
Uh-oh.
thinks that every conversation is
Not
about
not not like an
elections
actual.
and
I'm pretty
voting.
sure he's just having fun
Yeah.
Okay.
because he's like, I don't know. He's like, you guys don't understand democracy.
Angry liberal, like, do you need a cookie? I've got either chocolate chip cookies or like oatmeal raisin. I can bring one over for you. It seems
I
like you
have
might need a
chocolate
pick
dip
me up.
shortbread cookies. Chocolate dip
Ooh.
shortbread cookies.
Seems like you need a pick me up, angry
They're no
liberal.
name.
I
They're no name, and
apologize.
don't sleep on no name cookies. They're fucking pretty
All
sweet.
right, I'm gonna bring the angry liberal up. Let's see what happens. I'm curious. Hello, angry liberal.
Wow, way to diminish my arguments. Instead of responding to my arguments, you diminish them and set yourself
Okay,
up
okay,
to
hold on,
be.
hold on, hold on. I didn't see
Okay,
your
this is
comment, so
absolutely
please
ridiculous.
tell me what your argument is, so I can better understand because I didn't see your argument.
Why don't you ask me what my argument is instead
You
of
did.
Well, I did.
lowering
I asked
what
you
I'm
what you had
saying?
to bring to the
You
conversation.
just did.
You didn't initially do that, did you?
Those were like his first
That is
words.
the type of attitude that turns people off from your movement here.
Yeah,
Mm.
but that's my
Do you
freedom.
understand how democracy works,
Have you
though?
ever thought
You
about
need
getting
Yes,
to
to?
win
absolutely, we do. Yes.
elections with an S. You need to win elections with an S. Do you
But we're not
understand
talking
that?
about
You
that
don't
though.
understand that. You don't grasp
What
that
you don't
concept.
understand is that we weren't talking about that.
No, no. He's
And
what
you've
the
had the
fuck?
same argument every time you come up into a
Yeah,
conversation.
and I'm
You
gonna
always
keep
start with the
putting it.
same
But
thing.
so what?
You
You
because
either
you're
ignore
very
it.
hostile about
You don't.
how
You don't
right
need to
you
address
are.
me. You don't.
Okay,
There we
so
go.
no,
Mute me.
we're not
Fine.
gonna do the angry yelling over people here.
But
So if
Because
that's what
I'm
you want to
talking.
do,
What?
it's extreme gaslighting because now he's
What
going to
the
get
fuck?
super
Okay,
super
maybe
animated.
I
all
was wrong
right.
about.
So
Okay,
that's enough of that because
He's
clearly having a
unwilling to
conversation wasn't
compromise.
gonna happen.
He's unwilling to compromise on his views, and he thinks that his perspective is right, and he's observing these things that nobody else sees, and he thinks like he's having that "am I taking crazy pills" moment, and we're like, bro.
you talk about Pierre Polyev.
I wanted to talk to him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey,
That's okay.
angry liberal, if you want to come back up, she wants to talk to you. I mean, I'll let that happen.
I'm kind of
I'll,
curious.
I'll, I'll mute.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I'll even
oh,
drop
oh, oh.
down if he's intimidated.
All right, here we go. Here's the angry liberal. It's all on you. That's yours.
Wow. Wow. You guys are
Wow.
just a bunch of conversation bullies. You
Are you
do
gonna?
realize that you don't.
Hey, hey,
You
hey,
have
hey, 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 hey!
absolutely
Hang
no
on, hang on,
concept
hang
of
on,
this.
hang on, hang
You
on,
guys
hang
are
on, hang on, hang
conversation
on, hang on,
bullies.
hang on, hang on. 1 second, 1 second. I
On
just have a
what? No,
question for
you
you.
want, ma'am,
No, no,
ma'am,
no.
ma'am.
I have a
Hold on,
question.
hold on,
I
hold
honestly
on,
have a
hold on,
real honest
hold
question
on,
for
hold
you.
on. No,
A real honest question for you. Okay.
ma'am. If you
You're.
genuinely want to
I'm
have
not
a
a ma'am. Don't
conversation
call
with
me
me,
ma'am.
come to my live.
I'm not a ma'am. Don't call me a ma'am.
Come to my
My
live if you
question
want to
for you.
talk to me.
No, my question for
I've
you.
got no answer for you until you
My question for you.
come to my live, ma'am.
My question. My
Come to
question.
my
My
live.
question. My question
Come
for
to my
you
live.
is: are you just gonna be up here crying about how you're being treated, or are you just gonna like actually make your point? Because that's all I've heard is you cry. You talk about how your point
He's
hasn't been
gone
heard,
because I
but then
was
you don't
muting
actually say your
him.
point.
Yeah.
Did he run away?
Yeah, because I kept muting
Oh,
him so you could try and speak, but he
yeah.
didn't
He
like
wants
it.
to be
Yeah.
No, I
heard.
won't come to your live because I have you blocked. There's a reason I have you blocked. So if you want to talk, you can come up here and talk to me. But I don't want to hear your
Oh,
crying.
Meg, did you miss it?
I don't want to hear your crying.
You know the bit is a lot less
Can
funny
you?
when he just keeps yelling.
We were
I
at
don't get
You need a
it.
we were on
tissue?
I
time.
thought, is it a bit? Like, because that could be a really good bit. I could see someone being like, "Oh, you guys," like, I don't know. I could see someone trolling like that, but he just was kept
It
talking,
was pretty good. It was about women and empowerment
something like that.
and education internationally, and you know stuff like that.
Because he's angry. That's why he's really living up to his name.
He's very angry.
Not
Sorry, I
liberal.
dropped my
Not
phone
the
there.
liberal part, just the angry part.
I think
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
deluded.
Well, I mean, his anger flows liberally, so
There you go.
Angry liberal, you need more cookies. That is the answer. You cannot be so angry if you have cookies in your life.
But I also have tissues here for your tears.
huh.
Because that's all you wanted to do was cry, right? So I have tissues here for you.
I got toilet paper in case you got to wipe something else.
Huh.
Sorry, too far.
That's funny.
Uh,
No, that was
Yeah, it's
great.
funny. It's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Excellent.
yeah, guys, we got 5 minutes left. Happy, I want you to plug the new show, buddy. Tell us all about the new show.
Damn happy life. We had our first episode today. Once it's up, go check it out if you missed it. Today we talked about sustainable development goals and how they relate to Canada a bit, and then we discussed defining happiness. Had some panelists come up, a little bit of a back and forth about why people why that happiness can be so elusive and fulfillment can be so elusive, and how sometimes it's confused. So it was a good episode, and I look forward to whittling down to a like an efficient kind of module, but it was good.
Mhm. Awesome. And Nerdy, did you want to plug your show quick before I wrap things up?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so Friday nights, Polititalk. So if anybody wants to debate without the tears, you can do that on Polititalk on Friday nights. It's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
6 p.m. Mountain. I go between 5 and 6 hours.
You're a
I
trooper.
could
I
make a really
honestly
bad.
don't know how you go so long on it.
Could make a really bad comment right now and be like, I go all night. But
Uh, there you go. Yeah, guys, we've got so much going on over at Beaver Politics. We've got such a
oh
lineup. We got
yeah,
what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have two shows each of those days,
yeah.
as well as, are we talking
Every other day
about,
is one show a day. Yeah.
yeah, are we talking about Wednesday, Thursday yet?
I'm in the works. I know I'm talking with some people about getting an LGBTQ live going. Yeah, I have one of those going right now. Then I'm in talks with somebody, but also we're going to be solidifying it tonight. I'm making the promo video for it tonight, but on Wednesday and Thursday we are going to be running a 24-hour live, and it's going to be hosted by, oh my God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like all 10 of us. We're all doing shows. Yeah, so we're gonna be going starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday and going until 11 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursday. So yeah,
Yeah,
a little
guys,
bit.
it's going to be a marathon, guys. So just keep an eye out for us those days because we will be live pretty much the entire time. And just
Yeah,
just except for like the switchovers between hosts. Other than
yeah,
that, it'll be the
yeah. It won't be
whole time.
continuous. It'll be
So
every 3 hours. We'll be switching, but it'll still be the Beaver Politics page every single time.
yeah,
But yeah, it's gonna we're gonna go all night long.
yeah. And when the polls close, guys, we're hoping to have all of us there to do a full on like live poll, bring it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great. Sorry,
Oh,
I
awesome.
lost how to speak for a second
You're
there.
good.
Um, yeah, guys. So thank you so much for everyone for coming. Happy and Damien, thank you for coming up and being a part of the conversation. Nerdy, thank you for coming up and trying to have a conversation with an angry liberal. Uh, maybe next time we can work on that. Maybe we can actually get an olive branch out there and actually get a conversation one of these days. Yeah. So that's it for me, guys. I've got a meeting to get to. So until next week, stay safe, stay sane, take care of your loved ones, and take care of yourself. And we'll see you next week, guys.